But was it all about men? I don't think so. While the title might suggest a male-dominated narrative, what truly grabbed my attention were strong, complex, and sometimes tragic female characters. So I'm making a mini-series where we will explore the character arcs of women from Mad Men and how their fashion tell their own story, starting with none other than Peggy Olson. Peggy Olson's character was acclaimed as one of the greatest characters in television history, and rightfully so. From her early days as a secretary to her eventual ascent to copy chief, she navigates the tumultuous landscape of the 1960s New York with unparalleled grit and determination. In this video, we will delve into what makes Peggy such a compelling character with a special focus on her fashion evolution. Hi everyone, my name is Daria, and on this channel we're mainly talking about fashion in the movies and the series, as well as fashion and current trends on social media. If you feel like you enjoyed this video and this kind of videos, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Before we delve into the fashion development of Peggy, I would like to talk about 1960s. This is the decade where Matthew Weiner, the creator of the Mad Men, decided to make the series in. However, if you feel like you already know everything about the 60s and want to know more, you can skip to the next part. The 1960s were a time of a profound change and the fundamental shifts in society, as well as the rise of the second wave of feminism. Mad Men vividly portrays the significant changes that happened throughout the decade, including the death of Marilyn Monroe, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Nixon versus Kennedy presidential election, and the assassination of President Kennedy, all of which defined the era. As to the fashion in the 1960s, the theme of change has persisted. The decade saw a gradual shift from more formal style to the casual style throughout all ages and genders. As for the women's fashion, there were three big themes in fashion. First, the ladylike elegance. There was a continuation of a ladylike elegance from the previous decade at the beginning of the 1960s. One of the main influential figures in the 60s who represented that trend was, of course, Jackie Kennedy. Her colorless dresses and single-button jackets made her style elegantly distinct. And of course, her pink suit that she wore on that tragic day has been copied by many women throughout the world. Second, the usual style popularized by Mary Quant and influenced by the space age gained prominence. The cultural phenomenon termed swing in London began in the 1955, but reached its zenith in the early to mid-1960s. It was a phenomenon that brought us the Beatles and the miniskirt, Twiggy, and the Who. The designer who led the way was Mary Quant. Her style moved away from the grown-up fashion to playful youth-driven fashion. Her shift dresses were very short, and her prints were bold and colorful moth prints. Her fashion and her personality set the tone for the rest of the 60s, and the fashion is fun. It was the whole idea of return to youth that drove most of the fashion in the 1960s. Oversized collars, bows, and delicate trim miniaturized women and made them appear smaller. One of the most revolutionary designs attributed to Quant was the miniskirt and mini dress. As for the space age, the most prominent designer was André Koresh. As the founder and catalyst of the space age fashion movement in the 60s, he contributed to the liberation of women from the strict, uber-feminine silhouette of the 50s in favor of miniskirts, peekaboo, align dresses, and his infamous wide ankle boots. By the way, if you have watched the movie Poor Things recently, the Bella shoes that she wears throughout the movie is pretty much encouraged by the André Koresh style. If you're curious to learn more about Poor Things and the costume design there, check this link. Number 3. Towards the late 1960s, the hippie style became prevalent. If you want to know more about fashion icons in the 1960s and the trends that prevailed during the decade, I'm thinking to make the whole video only about 1960s, so let me know in the comments if you are interested. Peggy's character is introduced to us in the pilot of the show when she starts working as a secretary in the Sterling and Cooper advertisement firm. The world of advertisement and Manhattan is a brand new world for Peggy, and through her lens and together with Peggy, we introduced to the world of advertisement in the 1960s. In the first season, Peggy is a 20-year-old recent secondary school graduate. She exudes a reserved and shy nature, a product of her upbringing in a working-class, religious Brooklyn family. She is dressed as someone who would be going to college, which I think makes sense for a girl her age. Peggy's wardrobe reflects her modest background. Her attire is demure, with skirts that some colleagues suggest should be shorter to showcase her beautiful legs. She's never wearing brighter colors, and she's mostly in the likes of gray, blue, yellow, and golden colors. Golden, by the way, represent ambition, which makes sense for her character. She's also wearing a lot of clothes with a pattern. I think patterns in her clothes highlight her complex character. In the second season, she embraces feminine looks. She wears some of the 1950s inspired dresses, which is similar to some of the Betty's dresses, to be honest. She has a delicate watch, and these looks start transitioning to a more practical, occasionally masculine aesthetic, befitting her role as a working woman. We start seeing Peggy in more fitted dresses that resemble the office dress code of the time. And of course, we see more patterned clothes. Just like in real life, the change is not sudden, but her wardrobe is subtly changing together with her character. For example, she changes her watch and she gets a haircut in the end of the season 2. So her hair does not look like a college girl anymore with a ponytail, but rather like a working, confident woman. Despite starting with the shy and reserved nature, Peggy is actually not afraid of embracing the new experiences and challenging her upbringing. Her move from Brooklyn to Manhattan in the beginning of season 3 symbolizes her desire to break free from the constraints of her background and embrace this independent and exciting life of women in the 1960s in Manhattan.
You're going to be one of those girls? I am one of those girls.
And Peggy actually becomes the archetype of a woman living in Manhattan in the 1960s. She is independent, ambitious, fashionable, and socially active. It embodies the changing aspirations of women living in urban America during this time period. And as she's saying herself, I am one of those girls. What she means by this that she is fearlessly shaping her own future and destiny for herself. In season 3, we see a bit more of a cute young professional outfit that resemble early 1960s. It's mostly a continuation of patterned clothing. Peggy loves patterns, especially dark, mostly gray or green clothes. Her most worn dress is this golden and gray dress resembling early 1960s fashion. Season 4 to 5 are defining season for her, I would say, where we see Peggy finding herself and also where she and her wardrobe change. Season 4, for example, there is some outfit enhancement, and I guess partially it has to do with the fact that Sterling Cooper becomes independent agency, Sterling Cooper Draper Price, and Peggy gets a higher position. So she now incorporates a bit more color, like drops of red or green, and she still leans towards her favorite color, yellow or golden. As her position becomes higher, she buys new coats. What I love, by the way, about the show is that Peggy is shown wearing the same coat, green trench-like coat, and we see it in season 2 for the first time and throughout the season 4 to 5. This adds realistic demeanor to the show. Some of my favorite top outfits look fashionable but also fit Peggy and office culture. I think she gets a bit more like dressed up. For example, this combo or this dress, this outfit. That's all a bit more enhanced. But overall, her style still resembles that of a working woman, with many vests over shorts that look more masculine, patterned dresses, patterned skirts, gray to black tones, many different shorts with a bow or without, and some skirt suits as well. As a character, Peggy embodies the work-first attitude and has a very high work ethic. She is trying to fit in with the boys, or she basically has to, because advertisement at this point is the men's planet or world, as Joan says. She's the only girl in the whole agency who has written the copy since the war at the beginning of the series, which is, by the way, like a 15 years old break. And we see her being concerned that she behaves too much like a man.
Do you think
That's one of the main struggles for her, I guess, as a character throughout the whole series, as she's trying to find really like her own place. She understands that she's not one of the secretaries, but she also doesn't want to be a housewife, and she doesn't see herself being like Joan and dressing like Joan. Therefore, she needs to find her own stance and her own place in all of this. By the end of the season 7, Peggy becomes almost like a new persona compared to the first seasons. Through her hard work and determination, she achieves success while also remaining open-minded to new experiences and developing a better sense of style which represent her personal growth. Overall, this makes Peggy a very compelling character to watch. In the last seasons, we see a culmination of Peggy's career as a copy chief in the leading advertisement company. And I think in season 7, that's where her outfits reach their peak, as she's probably earning more, and I guess she's generally just paying more attention. Peggy embraces the mini skirts of the 1960s. She also starts wearing more colors. For example, many more outfits and tones of red, an interesting combination of blue and green, and drops of bright green and orange. And there is a shift in her character towards embracing her femininity. Although she doesn't wear the dress to the presentation, she opts for a nice bright dress, indicating her preferences for femininity in her style. The dress is then seen hanging in her office, which I think suggests that she adopts a more feminine aesthetic. Even though Peggy's style overall becomes more feminine, it remains true to Peggy, and she's often seen wearing her pattern clothes and still some browns and darker colors and clothes that present office attire. Another character similar to Peggy, who struggles to find her own place among men in Mad Men, is Joan. Despite Joan and Peggy having very similar journeys, their path towards success looks very different. So if you're curious to hear more about character and fashion development of Joan, watch my next video in series of Mad Men. Bye!